Hello and good evening. Welcome to the show. It's the West Yorkshire Football Show live, and we're talking all things Leeds United. I'm Stephen Brown, and joining me, as ever, is Mr. Jayson Browney. We didn't do our post-match review on Saturday. I actually, full disclosure, didn't get to see the Leeds United versus Coventry game. However, from all my reading and what I've seen online, it feels like I've already watched this game before this season. Some of the trends, some of the comments, the analysis all kind of fits to kind of what we've been saying for the last few weeks. Now, Mr. Booker, you did see it. I saw a tweet that you did. I think it was maybe first half, and you were a bit unhappy with. Felt it was a bit complacent, possibly, or not quite at it. But overall, what were your thoughts on Saturday?
I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated at feeling this way when I see the talent that we've got out there, and I don't want to jump the gun. And I've said for weeks that we need to have a bit of perspective and we need to stay calm. You're not going to play well every week and whatnot. And I still believe all of that. And we need to remember August and the fact that without August, we'd be, I think, 3 points off second and 6 points off top or something like that. I think it is since the 1st of September. And I get all that. My concern at the moment and my real worry about the performances is that the fact that it feels when I'm watching the game like we're 3 or 4-0 up at 0-0. That's how it feels to me. And I'm starting to come to the terms with the fact that it's probably tactical. That is probably the way that we're setting up, and it's Daniel Farke that's intentionally going out to control games in this way. And I get it to a point, and I also understand that the fact if we were a little bit more clinical, we would probably be coursing through some of these games a little bit easier. However, I still think we're shooting ourselves in the foot in certain areas. I mean, I've seen somebody else mention this, so I'm kind of ripping it off. But there were the moment in the first half. I don't know if you've seen the highlights, Brownie, of ball came across from Dan James and Rutter just fresh air shot a chance and totally missed it. Now, if Pirro had been in that position, would have been 1-0 up, and that is tactical. It's instructional. That is the way that we're being set out into the game. In that Pirro's deeper and Rutter's further forward. And I just then find myself just scratching my head thinking, what is this persistence with something that just doesn't feel like it's fully clicking? And I understand that you sometimes have to go through games and you have to find that it takes time. But for me, it feels like the more teams are switching on and getting used to us, the more it's now looking like it's not going to work long term. So I have some real concerns for it. I really do. Coventry didn't have to play well at the weekend to take a point. I weren't happy with how easy the ball was to come in. I weren't happy with how easy it was for Thomas to get on the end of it. I weren't happy with the fact that Meslier didn't come out. There's just so much in that moment. And aside from sure, we had a few chances, but we didn't batter Coventry and draw 1-1. It was, especially first half. First half was really poor, really, really poor. Like you said at the beginning, we've seen the game before. So, yeah, that's just frustrating, mate. Frustrating. And, Ipswich dropped points in a tough derby. That game is one of them moments where we've got an opportunity to pull some back. And we have Coventry at home who are, they're just not a good side, really. They're going to finish between 12th and 18th in the division. That's pretty much sewn up for them already. They had their best players picked off them in the summer. And we kind of throw it away, really. Frustrating. And you can see the players getting frustrated as well.
Yeah, indeed. If you're watching on, please do put a like on the video, get your comments in as well. Skip, thank you for your comment, mate. Evening, gents. Last 2 games we've looked lethargic and our play has been far too slow. Thought Forshaw was back in our midfield. So many sideways, backwards passing. Yeah, it's one of these things where it's kind of been building over the last few weeks, the last few games. We've kind of mentioned it almost as a side note, the fact that the subs are very, it's the same subs all the time. It's the same lineup all the time. It's predictable. I feel like we were saying these things more and more and more as each week was passing. And, I didn't see the game on Saturday, but I felt like I knew exactly what that game looked like. Just from what people were saying, and as Skipper said there, it's slow, predictable. And it feels like actually the first time on Saturday where people were unhappy with kind of the performance level. Because like you say, I mean, Ipswich dropped points. It's a great chance to get back into it, to put the pressure on. For me, I've said it numerous times, I feel like this is our best chance to get automatic promotion, in the sense that, are we ever going to have a squad as packed as this again in the Championship? If we stay down there, potentially, no, I don't think we will. And it's this pressure and the fact that you've got two teams doing unbelievably really well. Ipswich just keep going and going and going. We'd pulled that difference a little bit closer, and then it feels in the space of a week, we've kind of thrown it away. We've got 1 point out of 6, 2 less than stellar performances. And
I think it goes. I think it goes back a little bit further as well. If I'm honest, like I think the Blackburn result and game was okay. We did control the game in the whole, but Blackburn had to come out and they didn't set up in the way that we've been struggling against. Sunderland did. They played a rigid game plan for 90 minutes and they ended up coming out with a 1-0 win. Coventry at the weekend played exactly the same and ended up coming out with a 1-1 draw. And I think you then go back. Rotherham, we dropped 2 points. The Middlesbrough game, that had, defensively in that game, we were all over the place at the time. They were pulling us all over the place. Plymouth at home, we weren't that comfortable in that game. And as good as it is to still be picking up them points and them results, it's a bit of a concern for me in that we're not really going out and dominating these games for longer periods of the game, and then being a bit more clinical as well. But I blame some of that on tactics. And I don't want to jump around too much, but this situation at left backs driving me mad. It's driving me mad. I mean, Sam Byram now has been out for I think it's 6 games and we've not won any of them. That can't be right. That just can't be right, that a right-footed left-back is that important to wear that back line. And I know he's played well, and he has, but that's a real worry for me. And then his insistence on in both games, I was confused by it in the Sunderland game, why he didn't play Jed Spence in his natural position and play Archie Gray at left-back. And then he went and did exactly the same thing again at the weekend. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why are we playing 2 players out of position when you can just play 1 player out of position? And arguably, Archie would be more natural at cutting inside into midfield from left back in the way that Sam Byram has been doing than Jed Spence would be. And then you get the full throttle out of Jed Spence because he can carry the ball down the right-hand side. He can't carry it down the left-hand side. There were literally, I would say, 5 or 6 examples of it on Saturday's game. So frustrating, mate. So frustrating.
Yeah, indeed. Waffles, thanks for your comment. Top 2 is a pipe dream now. Let's be realistic. It's the playoffs at best, and that will result in disappointment and another season in the division. I've got to say, that's exactly how I feel about the playoffs. I don't want to be anywhere near the playoffs, to be honest. I think the squad is... It's a weird squad because we're so packed in some areas, but like Jay says, you look at the left-back situation, you think, God... Because, we've all said recruitment was great. There's been a lot of successes there, but then how on earth this left-back position was just left to this? And obviously they had an idea that Byram would be able to do it, but to rely on someone with his injury record to get to that situation and thinking Junior Firpo is going to come back and have an impact and then he's injured again, and it just doesn't really make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And what about these squad players? I mean, what's Jayden Anthony thinking on Saturday? He sat there going, okay, Joe Gelhart's getting on ahead of me now. I mean, I was actually glad to see Gelhart, and I think a few people commented that he had, he was okay actually. He looked pretty bright, which I'm pleased to say. I've always liked Joffy, but what's Jayden Anthony thinking? What's Gruev thinking? I mean, but they're not getting any opportunity.
The problem, and I want to be careful that I don't go in on Daniel Farke too much, because I don't want it to come across as if I'm now like Farke's not the right guy, because I think he is. He's just got some failings that we're allowed to pick up on. And for me, these substitutions are just so scripted. Even the Gelhart one felt a bit scripted at the weekend. We weren't just trying to do something different. It was like he'd pre-planned that already. It's just frustrating. And I mean, the idea that he just throws attacking players on and plays them all up front, and so it's just so frustrating. There's no tactical restructure. There's no or it feels like there's no tactical restructure. There's no thought process going into the game as to who's going to be right for this particular game. It's just, right, okay, this team again. I mean, I saw somebody mention about Ilya Gruev. You know, he's Daniel Farke's pick. We paid £5 million worth of our tight budget towards him, and he can't get on the pitch ever. And Ampadu probably had his best game in a while at the weekend, in my opinion. I've seen some back and forward on that as well. I thought Ampadu was much more like what he had been at the beginning of the season on Saturday. He was covering far more ground. He was really, getting about the pitch. But there has to, by now, are we 22 games in? There has to be another opportunity for Gruev to get more minutes than just the Stoke away game. He's a Bulgarian international, Brownie. It just makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to me that Anthony and Nonto have not been starting ever. Even with the form of James and Somerville, there has to be some, because Rutter and Pirro now have not been playing particularly well for a few weeks. I still think they contribute in patches, but there's an argument to say that both of them could have come out and we could have moved them 4 around. But I don't know.
That's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing. When you look at it, you go, it's such a fluid front 4. But then you think, well, no, it's just the same thing over and over again. And I agree with you. I mean, you don't want to go in too hard on Daniel Farke, I think. And we've said it countless times, the way he's handled everything this season. I think it's been fantastic, especially the summer. But you're looking at that forward line now. I mean, it's just the same thing on repeat constantly, isn't it? Ball into Rutter, trying to half turn it. If the other team's wise to it, they'll clamp it out. I mean, you look at Nonto. I mean, for me, he needs to start getting some more time on the pitch. I think he's due a start, and I think you just got to mix it up somehow. I mean, it's like you look at Ipswich and their system just feels more fluid and feels like a better system, a better footballing system than what we've got at the minute. And I don't know, and it's frustrating because we've got an unbelievable squad for this level, And like you say, I mean, 5 million out of the budget for Gruev. That's how many teams in the Championship could do that? Can just pull it out and then not even play the player.
Yeah,
I mean, imagine. This is why there is this pressure this season. This is why we've got to deliver, because it's only going to get harder if we don't.
I mean, just coming to a couple of Skip's comments, is Saturday a must win? I think it depends on what you're talking about. I think for me right now, I said this to you at the weekend, didn't I, Brownie, that we're the third best team in the league. We are where we are. We are where we deserve to be. And I think right now, Leicester and Ipswich are the best 2 teams in the division. A couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, I think that was a slightly different. Their form had turned, our form had turned, and it looked like we were going to be able to close a gap. And football changes, doesn't it, weekly? So I think, again, things can change. I think if we have realistic expectations of catching that top 2, I think we need to beat Ipswich. And I think Ipswich then obviously go to Leicester, and hopefully one of them has to drop points.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's Ipswich, really, because I don't care about finishing top personally. I just care about getting promoted. So I would happily take second. So I think in terms of that, then yes, it is. And the facts are, I just think we're the best of the rest right now. So we are exactly where we need to be, really. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because I don't think, I mean, if the playoffs were starting tomorrow, I mean, I don't think we've actually beaten any of those teams in the playoff spots, have we, at the minute? Looking at it,
drew with Hull, drew with West Brom.
Yeah, so it's I don't know, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, the playoffs is not a kind friend to Leeds, certainly at any point. Let's get into a couple of individuals. I'm interested to get your take on what happened. I mean, Strike. I've heard mixed things about Strike's performance. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I didn't think he had a great game, personally. I think just because we only conceded 1 and then he was underneath that particular header as well didn't help how fans are then picking up on his performance. But I don't personally think he played particularly well before that. I thought Rodon were covering him a lot. I thought Rodon had a really good game. Really, really good game. He made one mistake, a bit of a sloppy pass late on into the game, but that didn't take away from his performance. I thought he was excellent. As I said before, I thought Ampadu was excellent in front of him as well. I thought he had a really good game, actually. It was really unfortunate to be on on a side that didn't win the game was Ampadu. So yeah, no, I didn't think Stroik played well, mate. But again, he's got Jed Spence alongside him, which is brand new. I thought Spence was a mixed bag. I thought there were moments where he showed flashes of what he can do. His pace is frightening. He really is very, very quick. But he just looks so unnatural on that left side. I don't think there's a position on the pitch which is more important to be on the correct side than a fullback.
Yeah.
Because like wingers, they're playing different spaces, and wingers are so used to cutting inside onto the strong foot now. You can play on the wrong side if you like, or you can play on your favoured side and take it to the byline. It's a bit different when you're a fullback because you're carrying the ball in a position where if you lose it, you then instantly turn over and you're on the counter. So I just think I just don't get it. I don't get that side at all.
No,
sorry.
because we've been waiting all season to see Jed Spence at right back, and he finally gets fit and back into the team. He's playing at left back.
It just doesn't make sense. It just don't make sense, mate. It just don't make sense.
What about this problem with the non-overlapping fullbacks as well? Is that something that we're starting to kind of see a little bit as well? Because I was screaming out for Archie to overlap on against Sunderland, and it just didn't happen. But I mean,
he did do a bit more of that actually over Dan James, but it doesn't seem like there's a great synergy between James and Gray down that side. And it might be instruction, it might be just them two, I'm not sure. But because teams are just sitting so deep against us and we don't move the ball quickly enough unless we give it to Somerville or James, it just makes them areas so tight and compressed to play within. And you need that Saiz, that Pablo Hernandez to kind of unpick that lock, or you need to move the ball in transition quicker. The amount of times, and it drives me mad, the when we win the ball, maybe on halfway, maybe a couple of 10 yards into our half, and we just turn back and play it to Melly or play it to Roda. Sometimes that's fine. I'm not saying don't do it at all. I understand that can be the tactic and the strategy, but sometimes it's okay to pick your head up and play it over the top to James or to Somerville, or play it into Pirro's feet and get him to turn. And I just don't feel like that happens enough. It absolutely drives me mad. We let the team just rush back, low block, and then we side to side to side to side. And I get that can be effective, but you do not have the talents of a Manchester City to make that work. That's what it kind of feels like. It kind of feels like we're trying to play like City, but without the technical ability of a Bernardo Silva, a Foden, Amares when he was there, Jack Grealish, like these players that are tricky in them spots.
So what is Pirro in this team then on a day like that where it's minimal touches, not getting the opportunity to get shots away? He's not a proper number 10. You think of a number 10 like Pablo or Saiz or, those type. He's not that. No. What is his role in it? What is he doing at the minute? Because it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think he's been okay lately and everything, but
he is.
From what I'm seeing, some of the stats don't make good reading as well. And it's this thing of it's either a Pirro game or it isn't. I mean, you just can't have that, can you? It's just you're not going to be consistent if you've got that.
It's frustrating, in my opinion, because I think there's obviously a player in there, and he's the most natural finisher in our squad by a mile. And I said to you last week, the week before, we started to see why he was playing in this 10 role, because he started picking up play positions in pockets, and he was turning on the ball quite well and bringing others into play. The problem that comes with that is that then them key moments, like I mentioned at the start with Rutter, if that falls to Pirro, we 1-0 up early, and it's a different game. I don't know what he is right now. I personally blame Farke for this situation that's been created, because we went and signed Pirro, but it's clear that this tactical instruction, he wasn't the perfect player for it, in my opinion. I definitely think that Cameron Archer was the player that he really wanted, the pressing 9 that can kind of interchange with whoever plays at 10. I think that's who we really wanted, and we ended up with Pirro, who was still a fantastic player. But right now, the tactic and the formation is not getting the best out of him. I still think we just need an out-and-out 10. I still think that. I think the 10 and the left back are key to the rest of the season, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Skip here. Frustrating that we still refuse to have a shot from distance and always seem to try to walk the ball in, resulting in our players getting swamped by the opposition.
I agree with that. I
Yeah,
agree with that.
Pirro, I mean, really, there's your man, isn't he, for the long... I mean, he scored some long ranges against Swansea, didn't he? And for Swansea, rather, it's... Yeah, I agree. But, it's a bit frustrating. It feels like tactically it's just not quite working at the moment. I think we had that moment earlier in the season where Farke kicked off about don't kind of ask me questions about Pirro and Rutter, that kind of thing. But I think that's going to rear its ugly head again, and it'll be fascinating to see what we do in January as well. Because if you do get a proper number 10 in, then what happens to that whole thing? It's a weird one with Pirro, isn't it? It really is, because, like you say, he's the best finisher in the team, and he's still contributed absolutely loads of goals so far this season. But these games that just kind of pass him by, you just can't have that. There's when you think of Ipswich, there's no cog in that machine that's absent. Do you know what I mean? There's no cog in that machine that doesn't always work. Do you know? And I just feel that because of the fee, you can't not play him. But it's just not the best way to run it, is it? And we all screamed out for a number 10, a left back. It's frustrating that it was not done, really. But
this left back situation is absolutely doing my head in, because I just think we've signed arguably the best right back in the league, and we can't even then play him at right back because of this left back situation. So then you end up compromising two positions for one position. It's just nuts. I would be absolutely stunned if by the 10th of January we've not got a left back in. I would be absolutely stunned, because we're going to do some business. And even if it's a player on loan, I don't care personally. It needs to be a left back that comes in, that he is the number one man at left back. And Byron fills in when there's a suspension or injury to either the left back or the right back. That's it. It's simple as that for me.
Yeah, no, indeed, and it is going to be fascinating to see what they do there. Where do you stand on this argument about? Because there's, I mean, some of the heated debate around Leeds at the moment, especially over the weekend, is how critical can you be of them? How critical can you be of Farke? Obviously, it's still early days, but I've got to agree. We've heard all this chatter last season about, there's loads of games left and there's time. We had all that crap last season, and then before you know it, there's 5 games left, and you're in a hole. I mean, it's 22 games in now. It's not early days still, is it? I mean, you would have thought by this time it would. We're third in the league. Look, we have just been on a great run, but what you see with your eyes, it's not clicking properly, is it, at the moment?
I'm somewhere in the middle of it, and I get why there's two different polar opposites of the argument, because we are third. We are only third to the two teams that have broken all the records that the Championship's ever seen, which is typical Leeds, but it is what it is. And if they were to both carry on in this vein, which they won't, I would be stunned if they do. But if they do, they will then both break the Championship points record. If they both carry on in the same trajectory, they will both break the record for the points total. That's not normal, Brownie. No. It's not. And we are the next of the best to them too. So when you put that into some perspective, along with the fact that August was rough, we started the season under all sorts of clouds. Come the end of the transfer window, we still weren't in the best place. We've always referenced the Birmingham game and the Jamie Shackleton at right mid and all the rest of it, not even being able to fill a bench. We had 2 keepers on the bench, right? I think in one of those games. So with all that in perspective, we've still only lost 1 game more than Leicester, who were 10 points in front of us. Yeah. There's been a lot of drop points in situations where we shouldn't have done it earlier on in the season. West Brom at home, Cardiff at home, and you can say all these things and make a defence for Daniel Farke and the squad. But then you can also there's a flip side of that. And the flip side of that is that the performances are still inconsistent, not only from one game to the next, but over the 90 minutes, they're inconsistent. If we start well, we don't play well in the second half. If we don't start well, we play well in the second half. We'll then have 20 minutes on where we'll play really, really well. And then we'll have 20 minutes where it looks horrid. We have this situation where we're 1-0 up in games and we're acting as if we're 3 or 4 up. It don't feel like it's all fully clicking. Should it all be fully clicking after 22 games? Maybe not. Things do take time sometimes. However, Leicester didn't have quite the upheaval that we did, but they still had a lot of upheaval. They still had a lot of change of manager, changing players and stuff. Yeah. And they're managing to find themselves in a situation where they've won 17 games. So you have to find that balance of what's right and what's wrong. I would say right now that the season kind of feels like a C+ or a B. Like it's still good, but it's not. It's just, well, the fact is it's just not that A or that A star that we need to be in the proper battle for the top 2. Because right now we're not in that race. We're in a race for the top 6. Because right now we're only, I'm just looking at the table, we're 6 points in front of 6. We are quite comfortably in the playoffs. We're 9 points in front of Sunderland. But the gap to Sunderland is 1 point less than the gap from us to Ipswich. So if we can believe that we can catch Ipswich, you best believe that Sunderland believe they can catch us. So it's...
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. It's a bit of a mixed bag. I just wish we could see more consistent performances. And some of the things are just glaringly obvious. You know, they're looking at us, staring us right in the face. I mean, I could go on about... Sorry, I'm ranting a bit. But I could go on about this sub-situation. This sub-situation is driving me mad. It really, really is.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a kind of marker, isn't it? Every game, you know, because you're just thinking, oh my god, I can't. This lineup, those subs, the timing of the subs. Like, I mean, what was the time of the first sub at the weekend?
76. It was.
It's just
but Brownie, right?
James,
right.
Too late.
There should have been a sub at halftime. Something should have changed at halftime just to reset everything and give the fans a bit of a buzz, and then the players would have been, that wasn't good enough, right? Okay, and just change it. And don't get me wrong, they did come out better in the second half. They did. That being said, the sub then waited, and it didn't come. We were then building up ahead of the team. I don't know if you've seen this, right? But we were building up ahead of the team, and Gio had 2 chances back to back. A right-footed shot that the keeper parried to the left, and then the cross came back in and Gio hit it again to the keeper's right, and he tipped it out and it went out for a throw-in, right? At that point, after waiting all that time for a substitute, Daniel Farke made the decision to make a sub. And you should have seen Jed Spence's face. He couldn't believe it. He ran over to pick the ball up to get the attack back under the way quickly. And Daniel Farke just killed all the momentum. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. He killed all the momentum. Jed Spence ended up coming off, which cheesed him off even more. And somebody else, I can't remember. And he made the standard double sub, Bamford and Nono, I think it was. And it's like, but why? We've now actually given you persistence. We've gained a bit of momentum, and now you've killed it. So the sub should have been 10 or 15 minutes before that, or not at all. You know what I mean? It's just bizarre, mate.
Is this contributing? Because a couple of people I've talked to who were at the game have said the atmosphere was flat as a pancake.
It's the style of football. It's the style of football that does that, because it's so possession heavy.
Yeah,
Bielsa's system was possession heavy, but it was possession heavy with intent. The movement, and the desire to win the ball back made that football exciting. That's Bielsa's style. This is like a bit of it, the possession, but the possession almost feels like it's never going anywhere. And sometimes, obviously, it does, but it tends to come off for something when they have moments of individual brilliance. I've mentioned this before. Rutter gets on the ball and does a turn or a flick, or a bit of skill that opens up a space, or Somerville does, or Dan James does. It doesn't ever feel like it's because of the tactic that we end up creating a goal-scoring opportunity. I don't know if I'm being too harsh with that, but that's how it feels when I watch it.
Yeah, and it's kind of. I totally agree with a point you made a few minutes ago about, sometimes we'll win that ball higher up the field, and within 10 seconds it's at Melier's feet.
Yeah,
he's like, what? How? What is going? This desire, this obsession for control, but I don't know. It's just it's a worrying thing if people in there. We're third in the league. We're winning way more games than we're losing. We do score goals, but there's still there's a feeling, and people are talking to who went to the game, it was flat, and there's that feel, like you say, that style of play. It's just, when you're not getting those results, it's just not, it's disappointing, isn't it? You know, if you don't feel like your team, and plus we got spoiled with Bielsa's tactics and his philosophy on football. Diggler here, we create loads of opportunities, but the ball doesn't get in the back of the net regularly enough. That's one problem.
I will say, like, if we were a bit more clinical, we wouldn't be having as many of these conversations because we'd be winning the games.
I mean, those Rutter chances. I mean, I couldn't believe that. I mean, how many chances did he have? I mean, just watching highlights, I mean, he must have had about 5 or 6.
But Brownie's not a 9.
No.
He's just not a 9. No. And I know he's shown moments this season, and I love him. We all love him. Yeah. Like, the guy is gifted. He's a super talented footballer. But he's not a 9. He's not got the composure in the box to score goals regularly. Like, I am telling you, Pirro would have another 5 or 6 goals if them chances had fallen to him. You know, he's missed so many. I mean, I think about the whole game when we ended up drawing 0-0 and Rodon got sent off. Rutter had an absolute sitter that he missed that day. So did Pirro, actually, to be fair. But the point is that more often than not, Pirro will score them, and more often than not, Gio will miss them. You know, when Gio was bearing down on goal against, when Ampadu put him in over the top, who were that against? And he killed him.
Oh, God, hang on. Let me get
Y'all know the game anyway. But when Gio was running in on goal, I had no confidence he was going to score that, if I'm honest. I'm delighted that he did. Blackburn, yeah. But when Pirro... Was it Blackburn? I thought it was at home.
No, it was Blackburn, wasn't it? Was it? I'm doubting myself now. Oh, Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough. Was it Middlesbrough?
It was a Middlesbrough game. It was a Middlesbrough... Because Blackburn was away from home. Yeah. It was definitely his goal at home. Anyway... When Pirro's bearing down on goal, I always believe he's going to score the Millwall goal away from home, the goal that he scored at Ellen Road the other week, as an example, the goal against Ipswich. Yeah. I always feel like he's going to score them chances. So, yeah, it's just frustrating, mate. But I suppose this is, you know, where we're at right now, there still is problems to solve within this squad. I do think a lot of them can be solved by the players that we've got within the squad, though. I do.
Well, yeah, and having a rejig, and I think there could be money there as well in January if you want to go. I mean, they'll talk about 25 million for Jack Harrison now to make that move permanent. Yeah. You know, if that's a lot of money this level. You know, you can maybe, I know they'll talk about Mary again, weren't they? And there's a couple other links with other attacking midfielders. I think, like you say, left back's got to be done. You know, it's really got to be done, kind of as a matter of urgency. You know, I mean, Firpo's got a few months left on his contract. Is he going to even be fit again properly? Is he at the level?
Terminate it, mate. Just genuinely make him a free agent. Here, we'll pay you until June. No, I'm being serious. I don't know if he's
there's no point. There's no point kidding ourselves with him, is there? There's no point. There's just no point.
I don't know if his contract is up at the end of the season. I'm not sure, but if it is, genuinely cut your losses and just give him 6 months worth of his wages and get him out of the club. Like, literally, he's a waste of time. He's not good enough and he's not reliable enough. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. It drives me mad. I can't believe we kind of banked on him being available as our first or second choice left back this season.
No,
tragic signing. Honestly,
agree. It's a huge weekend for Leeds going into this Christmas week. It's Ipswich at home on Saturday. It's the 12:30 kickoff.
I can't watch it either, Browner.
Oh, can you not?
I've kind of committed to going to the panto with my kids and my missus, and
that's where I was this Saturday.
I don't miss games very often, but I've been a nightmare to live with recently in terms of like my boxing and getting ready for Sunday and stuff. And I kind of felt like I had to give us a little bit of something back. Yeah. So I was like, look, I'll come. I have to on Saturday. I'll be sitting. Cinderella, Bradford.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be good, and you know we've got the kids for Christmas, so it'll be nice. But yeah, I'm a bit gutted that I'm going to end up missing it, but.
Yeah, it's no doubt. I mean, it's going to be a huge game. I mean, I remember seeing, it was funny, after Ipswich dropped points, I saw someone tweeting, right, that's it now, Leeds, you win today and then you beat Ipswich next week. You did, you know, like it's just guaranteed. It's like, no, we're Leeds United. It's not guaranteed. I mean, that game on Saturday, I mean, how hard is that going to be, Jess? I mean, they're quality, aren't they?
They're top side, mate. They're a top side, and they're a well-drilled, well-oiled machine. Kieran McKenna's a top manager, and he's just got them playing top football. I think it'll be difficult. I do think that it'll suit us more I think it'll suit us, i.e. the Middlesbrough game, when we could come out and attack the Ipswich game earlier on this season. I do think when teams sit in against us, that is where we find the most danger. They try and beat us on the counter or play for set pieces and then moments, and it builds up our complacency. I think when teams come at us, I think it kind of creates a game that we like. We're really dangerous on the transition. So I would fancy us more in this game than I would in the way that Sunderland set up as an example in midweek. So it's going to be tough. I do think it's a must win if we have any hopes of the top two. I do believe that, because I think a 13-point gap and Ipswich coming and beating us at Ellen Road would be a real damp squid for the players.
Can't lose that. Yeah, you can't.
I think it's a must win for the top two. I think at the end of the day, like, if we don't get the top two, I still believe that we will end up finishing in the top six. So I don't think the result matters to whether we finish in the playoffs or not. But in terms of whether we've got genuine, expectations or optimism of closing this gap to the top two, we have to win this game, because Ipswich have got a tough set of fixtures too. They've got Norwich. They played Norwich and dropped points. They play us. They then play Leicester, and then they play Leicester again in January. So you would hope that come the end of that, then maybe Ipswich have come out with maybe 2 points, 3 points, something like that, and we've hopefully, picked up 9.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Really sorted out, because obviously Leicester are winning. So yeah, that'll be 13 points ahead of Leeds if that score stays the same. McKenna ain't shy about making changes when he thinks it's needed. Yeah, he's proactive, isn't he? Absolutely.
See, Bielsa was the same. And I hate to always harp back about Bielsa, but the facts are is you have a squad for a reason, and we've been so desperate for a squad for so long. Yeah. It just seems like self-sabotage not to use some of the squad to keep players fresh, to keep them regenerated, to keep them on the toes.
Yeah.
Like, some of these players on the bench will just be like, I'm not even coming on today. Like, it just sounds like...
I think that's happened a little bit with Jayden Anthony. I really do. I feel like he had that one start against Stoke and he played poorly.
Yeah.
But he had been making good impacts from the bench.
Yeah,
he got a couple of goals from the bench. And I think his motivation levels have just gone boop, 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 boop,
Yeah.
I think,
I agree.
It's not great. One that Digler says here, don't feel our defence is actually that good. Talking about the defence, I mean, Meslier, huge, another... I can't believe we're kind of back in the Meslier debate zone again, but, after last season, we wanted him gone pretty much, and then he started off the season well, but, I mean, where do you stand on him at the moment? That goal at the weekend, should he have been a bit more aggressive, do you think?
My natural reaction, my instant reaction to that was, why is Meslier not coming and getting it? It's in the 6-yard box. It's floated over the 6-yard box. And then I've seen some people defending the fact that he didn't come and get it because of the flight of the ball. But if Thomas can get up and head it, then the keeper can come and punch it from an extra foot or two in front of the defender's head. I just don't get the defense of it. I mean, I'm interested to hear your take on it as well, because I don't know if I'm just now critiquing everything super tight on Meslier, but for me, like, any ball that comes anywhere near the 6-yard box, the keeper's got the right to come and clatter through everybody and get it. And we can talk about the cross, and should the crosser come in, and should Struijk have been beaten in the air, should Archie have been beaten? No, none of that should have happened as well. But your goalkeeper is your last line of defence. Come and save us when we need you. And I mean, by the time the header had come in, it was in the back of his own goal. It's like, I just can't. Yeah,
I've got to agree, because when I saw the goal, I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, we have to carve out these chances so many times again. We have to carve out the most perfect chance and then miss it 9 times out of 10, and then ball comes over, and I don't know what Struijk's doing. Like, I just do not know what Struijk is doing, and Meslier is just. I just don't know what he's doing. He's just kind of hot. He's just standing back.
You couldn't be more spot on. He's their defensive midfielder. He'd won the ball in midfield and then ran about 40 yards, passed it out to the Sakamoto, the winger. There was no striker in the box. Go and watch it again. There was no striker in the box. They had one player forward, and it was their defensive midfielder. They one lofted ball into the box and they score.
Just...
And that's it. I can't think of another chance that Casey Palmer had a shot from edge of box a bit after that it was straight at Melier. That was it. That's all I can remember in terms of chances. And we're creating chance after chance after chance after chance. It's blocked, and it's like
driving me nuts. It's driving me. I mean, look at the weekend before the Watford goal, Ipswich goal against
the
Watford.
Ipswich goal. Yeah.
I'm like,
I know.
When do we ever get a goal like that where the defender just fucking falls over and the striker just goes in? But I'm just like, what? Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Interesting one here from Skip. Rumours about Aronson and Sinisterra coming back in January. For me, I don't want any loan players back. There's your number 10, Jayson, Brendan Aronson. What do you think?
I've seen
about players who can't finish a dinner.
I mean, whether this is actually real or not, I don't know. Like this Sinisterra loan.
Surely not Sinisterra. How? I mean, how would that even happen?
I don't know how either of them would end up rebuilding their reputation with the Leeds fans. I don't know. Maybe Aronson probably could do it easier than Sinisterra, but I believe once Sinisterra played and he showed us that he was the best player in the division, most fans would get on board with it quite quickly. That's just what football fans are like. I just can't see it happening because he's just too good. He's just too good. We said this before, and I couldn't believe we were here on last day at Windsor. And Aronson's a weird one because I can see it happening. I could see it happening. I think Danny Farke has even come out and spoke about it today. I saw a title. I've not read the full piece, but I did see like something like it said Farke open to Aronson return or something like that. And I don't know the context, but could he survive in the Championship? Would he be what we need? Probably not. I could see that it would be of some impact. I think he could impact the game from the bench in a way that all of his other substitutes probably couldn't. I do think he's got that little bit of something different. But I'd rather stay away from any of the bad eggs coming back, personally. You know, they looked for a way out when it suited them. Yeah. Now that we're, towards top of league and actually it looks all right, does this? Like, no, I don't really fancy you then coming back in when it suits you, personally.
No, I don't make good reading when you look at Aronson's record in Germany. I mean, 0 goals, 0 assists. Club have been in the absolute free fall. Has he
been arrested out there as well?
Yeah. I saw something about that. Yeah, some driving thing or something. Yeah, it's so to kind of come back to Leeds then, and we don't need players who can't get that final ball right. We've got enough of that where we can't get the final pass right, the final shot right. That we don't need more of that. We need someone clinical. I like this one. Roma fans screaming to get Rasmus out, saying he's the worst player to play for them. I mean, did you see his goal? Did you see his?
I did, and I saw his celebration after he scored that big deflected goal, and he was like running around like he just won Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, God Christ Almighty, that recruitment from last season, Jesus,
he's not very good.
No, so it's an interesting one with Leeds. We're at a point now where it's kind of turned a little bit. I think we're looking at it now. We're expecting big things from this squad of players. We're going to every game expecting to win. Not expecting to win, but certainly feeling like we should have a good opportunity. But it's been a bad week, Jayson.
It has. I mean, 2 dropped results is never good in the Championship when you're trying to get promotion. A week where you don't win either game, especially when you then come back and play a team like Coventry at home. But it's hard to say, but I just think we're exactly where we deserve to be right now. And, third in the division, in any division, really it's not terrible. It's just we have such high expectations and we have such a desire to return to the Premier League as quickly as possible that it makes it quite painful. And I think because Ipswich have been a bit of an anomaly, and we all know that Ipswich came up from League One last season, I think we all look at it and been like, well, why can they do that? You know what I mean? So, but that's football, innit? It's not played on paper. So, not a good week, mate, but we have the perfect opportunity to put it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. Well, that's pretty much all we've got time for on tonight's show. I'm going to give my voice a rest, and Jason's going to recover from his boxing bout at the weekend, get some well-deserved kip. Me and Jason will be back later in the week. We'll have our debate show later on in the week, so do tune in for that. Please do pop a like on the video as well. Get your comments in as well. How are you feeling at the moment, Leeds fans? And we'll be back again very shortly. Thank you very much for watching.